let's finish up that discussion. And I want to kind of have a broader conversation amongst all of the groups. All right.
Yeah.
I did a Google graphic search on emotions and faces, and actually I did kind of a survey and also like a lot of like the basic groupings of emotions are kind of limited to these 6. So
We all have
yeah. But of course we live in a world that's far more complex. So. I'm almost certain that several of you would probably take, well, I felt these 3 things, you know, or I felt all of them at different times. And that's totally cool for the conversation. But we had to start somewhere, and I didn't want to give you a 32 feeling. So I'm sure we'll get there in the discussion. But nonetheless, that's how I got to it, to answer your question. So speaking of that, like let's go around and just kind of share out, you know, maybe briefly similarities between people in your group and how they felt, and differences, and maybe where those things came from for you. And just shoot your hands up if you wanna share, or not. Okay, first hand.
Bree and I were talking about it wasn't an envelope. We started with the envelope and then we kind of added. And one of the things we were talking about is this disoriented feeling sometimes, and how if something gets explained to you, you know it and it sounds so eloquent and you can understand it and you know that it's really important. But then when you try to explain it to other people, it's really hard. And so we both were talking about how, you know, when you put up the slides and the definitions are there, it's so clear. And then later I try to explain what we're doing at PCC to someone else. Says, what are you guys doing? And then it doesn't come out right. It's very disorienting.
Well, and I kind of dig a little bit into that too. And then when you have those conversations and you can't access that information, where does that put you in terms of feeling?
It's a little scared. I mean, obviously I have anxiety and nervous, but you get scared that you're trying to explain something to someone that you find so important and you feel like you're lacking the information to explain it, that it looks almost petty and you feel like you're doing a dishonor to it, essentially.
So there might be questions to your integrity,
or even the movement, or, you know, anything, anything that's behind it. There's questions from it and you feel like a representation all of a sudden and you feel like you've like felt it.
Right. So there's maybe a little bit of shame on the tail end of that. Okay, cool. And thank you. We'll put a pin in that. We'll get around to that. Other groups? Yeah.
We really resonated with each one in a different way, although we may have changed the word a little bit. Like, joy may have been actually more like hopeful that these conversations are finally happening. Amar expressed that he didn't really feel angry, but I said I had some anger, but it's more like, why am I 34 years old and we're just having these conversations now? That's what felt kind of like, you know, and then surprise, of course, that once you pull on the yarn, there's so much, and so to see like how much is actually there, and of course sadness and disgust are obvious ones. But Amar and I have talked about this so much this whole month, and we are like, many conversations. So we have a little bit different perspective, but both see the value in this exercise and all the exercises.
Good, great. Other things? Yeah.
Now, I don't want to like speak for you guys, but like I picked anger and like was asked like why like I felt anger, and it's been such a long process from like sort of where I started of not thinking about it all to like now just thinking about like every day and like every facet of my life. That at very first it was a very defensive anger of just like, no, I'm not a part of this. Like my family, you know, like my family had the last stop on like the Underground Railroad in Vermont. Like my family, like, you know, my grandfather got death threats for supporting Muhammad Ali when he was you know, not got death threats from the KKK for supporting Muhammad Ali when he didn't want to, when he objected from the draft. Like I'm not part of the problem. I'm like one of the I'm helping. And then that anger turned into like anger that again, like, you know, like she said, you know, that I'm just how am I just learning this now? And like the anger that like I was not given a choice, that I was like indoctrinated into this, and that no matter how much I think about it, all of those cultural stereotypes that we have for just everyone that fall into her race or all these different things are just never going to leave my mind. Like I can't unlearn them. I can be aware of them and reflexive about them, but I can never, like, they're still there for just the rest of my life now. So it's been angered a lot of different places over like the concept of whiteness.
Yeah, because I think ultimately it's a cultural thing. It's just like how do you tease out culture along the way. It's not very easy. Other things. Anybody from the back row? People are just like, oh no, feelings.
I would say the first time I heard it, I felt defensive. You felt
Defensive?
Defensive, yeah.
And that's actually very common. So that's not. So yes. And could you tell me, like, could we dig into the defensive part, like?
Sure.
Yeah.
I just was completely unaware of what it was, and in the context that it was put to us, it was sort of examine your whiteness, and I was like, what are you talking about? You know, and then in the conversation from there, I've taken it from there. I've gotten to learn more over the course of the last couple of years, but it was only a year or two ago when I first heard the term.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was behind, for sure, on learning about what it was about and about some of the more really basic concepts of racism, including white privilege, including the difference between equity and equality. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And being with people, both of color and white people in a room talking about these subjects for a couple of days. It took a couple of days for some of the concepts to really sink in, and then I've been trying to just be more aware and talk to people, and I feel probably more awkward than not the more I learn. It's just because the fragility aspect comes in. I feel part of it. I can't help but be white. I can't, I can't control what somebody else feels. This woman of color who I have nothing but respect for tells me she doesn't feel loved in Portland. That just broke my heart. I was just like, how can you feel that way? And so, we were taught to be colorblind. When I grew up in Portland, we were not taught about what it's like to be anything but white, because we were taught that there isn't a difference. So that probably really did a big disservice to us. So it's a complicated subject.
And just, I'm kind of curious too, everybody in this room, like, how many people, like, had a really visceral, kind of serious reaction like that when that word came up? Just put your hand up. Because we were never interrogating that too. So, I know, and this is like my personal thoughts on the matter is I also feel like the reason whiteness is a huge trigger for lots of people is that, once again, it's that lens. Like, suddenly the lens is turned to people, to white identified people, as the focus of analysis, and that's uncomfortable. Speaking as a white person, especially an anthropologist who could be implicated as one of the people who holds that lens on people. I think that definitely leads to a lot of those, like, oh, what's going on feelings. So
Bringing up the topic with people who aren't ready to talk about it is you get hit with, like, it's like wall. I mean, and
Yes.
I was posting on Facebook to everyone, like, my school is doing this amazing thing, everyone should come out, and it got almost no likes or whatever, and I was like, what's up with my group here? And then I posted something else dumb, and it was like 100 likes instantly. It's like people are so afraid to even touch it, and I just feel like as a white person, one of my biggest responsibilities is to talk to other white people and get the conversation going in so that people can start to feel that their discomfort is just part of the process, and that's the only way through to the other side is going to be straight down the center of it. There's no avoiding it anymore.
The silence is deafening.
Yeah, and once you open your ears, you realize how pervasive it is. Unbelievable.
It's pretty deafening piece of scene too.
You get a hand in the back.
Yeah, I got a lot of things, so I'll try to stay focused. There's a piece of the project that is sort of missing a little bit, and overall, and that's where people of color are also implicated, and it's showing up for me in this conversation where it kind of seems like, how do white people feel about whiteness, right? And I can tell you, I had several folks of color mad at me. Just mad at the project, mad at us, and some of the fear that I heard was a fear of retribution. Right? I just wanted to put that into the room, fear of retribution. They had memories of Jim Crow, right, and of eras of being terrorized by white folks. And the name of the project brought that up.
It was an interesting name. I agree with this.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad that you brought that perspective in there because it does affect both sides.
Yes.
And I'm happy, very happy about that. So,
There are still folks of color in Portland, I know, that are still really not interested in coming because of the name. And there's still a lot of misunderstanding about what this event is about.
And that was my initial reaction to that this month. I was like, oh, there's a bunch of white people talking about whiteness.
yeah.
Well, we had different reactions when we heard about it. Mine was disgust because I thought it was like a white supremacist thing. And then it wasn't until you told me what was going on that I had surprise. And then coming here, it's been joy, but it's been very, what you said, it's informative, and Allison had a different, because her context was totally different.
So I got an email from colleagues called Equity Group, so I knew that it wasn't the KKK having
Well, whites matter too.
so my immediate was just like, this is interesting.
Nice. Should we keep?
Yeah. Because we're gonna run out of time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is a good conversation. I would say, like, pack the emotions back in the envelopes and just. Well, just the paper. The emotions, I think, are.
Just tuck them away.
Put them back where they belong.
Keep them right here, people. All right, so, did you want to say this piece or?
Yeah. So in terms of like kind of where we're going with the presentation, I think it's really important to understand and interrogate like where these feelings are coming from and how they're operating on our journey in terms of understanding, of accepting, of dealing with the possibility of engaging in this work, because it's work. It's gonna be work if we're sincere. And there's a lot that comes along with that, a lot of other feelings that come along with that too. So I think it's really important to know your feelings to help you understand like where on that journey you are, because it's, like a lot of journeys, sometimes it's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. So I think it's important to be clued in and kind of be checked in with yourself along that process. And we will be talking about kind of like a model that Tanya and I feel is really a good way to kind of like keep track of like how are things going, where am I even on this journey, if that makes some sense.
So, we wanted to have a little fun with this concept of white fragility, so we hope you can join us in humor.
Oh, that's good.